Hello people, welcome back. In the episode number 1, we saw the basic setup. Today, let's walk through a real module and understand the complete flow from HTTP to insertion in database. So, what we're going to do, we're going to have a focus on the client module. So here, if I click on clients, if I don't forget to run the composer run dev, of course, I can create a new client. I'm using form filler here to fill up the fields, and I'm click on create clients, and the client now exists with information, address, notes, and invoices. So how do we handle that in our modular monolith? If I have a look at app modules, of course, all the logic related to client is found in the client modules. So in database, we already have a factory. We have the create clients table, the migration. Here, I want a user ID to keep it as an authenticatable entity. Also have resources where you can find all the cruddy pages, cruddy views. But the most important here will be the SRC. Remember, in each module here is a mini Laravel application. So in the source, which is the app equivalent, we can see, of course, the HTTP folder, and inside we have the controllers folder, and we have our client controllers. Okay, if I go to web.php in routes, of course we have here the mapping of routes with method. So in our client controller, what do we see? We have different classes injected in the constructor, and the methods we want to see is, so first, to create to return the view, okay? But the most important one is the store method. First thing first, we can see we have a store client request. It lives in the same folders in HTTP request, and we have both store and update client request. So here, the unique and sole role of store client request of your form request is to validate the incoming data. So this is what it happens here. I only reuse data when they are validated. The second layer is our a kind of class here, which is called a DTO, a data transfer object. It lives in the data transfer objects directory in source, and it is here to provide type safety and decoupling the HTTP structure from the controller. Okay, we no longer want to work with the request structure with an array, because an array is kind of random. It's not safe typed. When we want to communicate between different level, we want to ensure the type safety, and it is done by a simple class, PHP class called DTO. Then the client data here is now typed clean and type saved. We're gonna pass it to the create method of the client service, where the logic will be handled. Then we redirect to the client show and the success message. So here, the client service was injected, you see, in the constructor. So it's pretty simple. You just click on client service, and in the services here directory, it leaves the client service. We use the create method, and what we see here is the client DTO. At this very moment, we know what data, how it is formatted, and how it is typed. We are aware of the data we pass. It's no longer an unshaped and random array, because array is really bad to communicate with that kind of layer. Here, we can now create our user using the module. Okay, so here we create it. Then we use the repository here, which is injected in the constructor, to client data. So what happened here is we just create a user, because client is linked to a user to make it authenticatable, but we're passing here a client data to our repository. The repository here, the constructor, is a client repository contract. Repositories are your data layer access. It is very important to rely on interfaces, on contracts, because you ensure to implement a contract, because you want to be really strict about the cross-module communication. It is a public APIs from the client module. If in a certain action you want to communicate with another module, you must rely on abstraction and not concretion, though. So you don't pass any hard-coded classes, you pass a contract. So everything will be cleaner and the contract will be defined. Then how to do that and how to tell Laravel how to instantiate this contract, because you can't instantiate a contract, you can only instantiate a class that implements a contract. This is the client service provider. You have a provider related to each module, and in the client ones, you basically say in the register method, you tell to the Laravel container client repository contract, when you want to instantiate it, you instantiate the client repository, which lives in src repositories, client repositories, which is here. We have this create a new client from array. We have this create from array method. You also have the create client directly from the client DTO. But anyway, you have access and you process data in your client repository. So every specific logic lives in its specific module and in its specific directory. So this is basically what we do here in the service. Now you can see that everything is clean, everything deals with its own concern, and you end up with a thin controller. If I go back to the client controller and you have a look at the store method, okay, it is really simple. Of course, you can handle all of the logic at the same place, and it is a very simple and straightforward example, straightforward application. Okay, it has nothing complex, but you have to stay clean if you want to use this kind of pattern, and it makes the job.